not reach the port of Antwerp. When part of the German army withdraws from Skelt, the Netherlands thinks that they will be liberated at any moment. The scene changes to Vlissingen, Zeeland on the 5th of September, the year 1944. People are removing the Nazi flags outside their establishments and packing everything that has something to do with the Nazis. Then, we see a woman named Tunche Visser working in the office of the mayor. After she hands a document to the mayor, he asks Tunche to help his wife pack, then goes home afterward to pack for herself too, since her father, who's a doctor, works for the Germans as well. On her way home, Tunche goes to a bakery where her friend, Jana, works, who is very happy that the Germans are finally leaving their country. Meanwhile, Tunche's brother, Dirk, is taking photos of the passing German soldiers when one soldier notices and orders him to surrender his camera. When Dirk didn't obey, the soldier snatches and throws the camera, telling everyone that the Germans are still in charge of their country. Angry, Dirk picks up a stone and throws it at a German driving a truck. Wounded, the truck driver accidentally runs over several German soldiers on his way. Dirk quickly runs away and Tunche is dragged away by her friend as her brother is being chased by German soldiers. At home, her father asks what's happening outside as he heard the gunshots, but Tunche lied to her father. After her father leaves to go to the hospital, Tunche looks for Dirk in their basement but finds no one. The scene goes back to the 11th of August the same year, on the Russian front in Narva, where a Dutch volunteer named Marinus van Staveren is fighting a losing battle, along with his comrades, against their enemies. He manages to take down an enemy tank, but his friend, who loses his morale, walks straight to the enemies and gets killed. Going back to the present, Dirk manages to come home and Tunche immediately attends to his wound. He then asks his sister not to tell their father what happened. The scene changes in Dorset, England on the 16th of September. A glider pilot named William Sinclair, who's part of the Allied forces, is scolded by his superior, Captain Tony Turner, for doing a roll during their flight exercise. It turns out that Captain Turner knows William's father and promises to bring him home alive for Christmas. Captain Turner then tells him that he'll only allow him to go to war with his father's permission. Meanwhile, in a hospital, Marinus dreams about the time he left his family to join the German army and his dead friend. Shortly after he wakes up, the doctor approaches him and tells him he just needs more rest. Going back to the Vissers, Tunche's father mocks the liberation because it turns out that the Allies never arrived in their country and the Germans are back in command. On the other hand, the Allied forces are discussing Operation Market Garden, which is their plan to retake Arnhem and go straight to Berlin after regrouping to put an end to the Germans' tyranny. After the meeting, William talks to the commander, who turns out to be his father, and convinces him to allow him to fly, but his father declined, saying that he's not yet ready. However, William tells Captain Turner otherwise. Meanwhile, Marinus has found a friend in the hospital and his friend reminds him that no matter how big the lie is, if you repeatedly push for it, people will start to believe it. And it comes from the German Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels. The scene changes to a young man being arrested by German soldiers. Afterward, while on her way to the mayor's office, Tunche sees the German commandant named Oberst Berghoff meet with Mayor Oostveen. Commandant Berghoff says he needs to punish everyone that's part of the resistance and asks for the mayor's cooperation. Shortly after, Tunche overheard that 3 innocent young men will be executed if the person behind the truck accident don't turn himself in. At home, she immediately tells Dirk to go into hiding. Tunche tells him that their father can help him, but Dirk can't trust their father because he works for the Germans. He then tells her that Jana can help. The next day, Tunche tells Jana about her brother and she gets confused about Jana and Dirk's situation. Meanwhile, Marinus, who's now recovered, will be transferred to Holland, but his friend got him another desk job in Zeeland and tells him that everything will be over soon. Afterward, his friend killed himself. The scene changes to the Allied forces commencing the Operation Market Garden and are flying over Zeeland. Marinus, who's traveling to Zeeland, and Tunche, who's working, along with others, see the Allied forces' arrival. Unfortunately, the Germans fire at them and they manage to take down some planes, including the plane driven by Captain Turner and William. Luckily, William and his squad survive, but Captain Turner is injured. At the Vissers' residence, Commandant Berghoff and his men arrive and Tunche quickly notifies Dirk. The commandant then looks for the doctor, but since he's on duty, he waits for him. Shortly after, Commandant Berghoff asks for her brother when her father suddenly arrives. Dr. Visser treats the commandant's wound, to which he receives appraisal from him. He then orders the doctor to tell his son to report to their headquarters. Later that night, the family talk, and Dirk wants to turn himself in because he feels guilty for the innocent people that will be killed because of him, but Tunche discourages him. Their father tells them that he'll talk to Commandant Berghoff, but Tunche doesn't trust the commandant. Dr. Visser assures them that he knows how to deal with Germans and that liberation is coming soon. The next day, Tunche and his father go to the headquarters, where we see Marinus now working for the commandant. Dr. Visser nervously tries to negotiate with Commandant Berghoff, pleading with him not to kill his son and to only give life imprisonment to Dirk. When her father starts to cry, Tunche tells his father in English that they're only being played with. Commandant Berghoff asks what she says, but she lies and tells him that her father's night shift is about to begin. Asking Marinus, he tells the Commandant what Tunche really said. Commandant Berghoff recognizes Tunche as one of the workers in the mayor's office. He then tells her how much he respects hers and his father's job of serving the people. After promising the doctor that Dirk's punishment will be light, Dirk turns himself in. But before he leaves, he tells Tunche that there's something in the basement she needs to give to Jana. Tunche then realizes that his brother is part of the resistance and is covertly photographing German artillery. She goes to Jana afterward and tells her that she'll only give them the photos if they rescue his brother. Meanwhile, William and his squad finally find a farmhouse to rest where they meet a farmer that kindly attends to their needs. The farmer then tells them that Antwerp is already liberated and the Canadians are already over the Belgian border. Unfortunately, their current location is very far from the others, but they still decide to go. Meanwhile, Tunche meets with a person from the resistance and she makes a deal with them to help Dirk. Then, we see Commandant Berghoff and Marinus talking about Dirk, and Marinus realizes that he will not honor his promise to the Vissers. The next day, the squad moves and takes shelter in an abandoned house. The squad spends the night drinking, but William, Captain Turner, and another soldier named Hank Schneider are abandoned by their comrades the next day. Meanwhile, Tunche steals the map that the resistance is asking her to get as part of the deal to save her brother and hands it over to Jana. Then, we see Marinus witnessing his comrades torturing Dirk, asking for the names of the members of the resistance. Marinus immediately leaves as he can't take what he's seeing. The scene changes to William and Hank looking for a boat as per Captain Turner's order. The two fail and are about to go back to their captain when they see a raft. Knowing that the Germans found their captain, they sneak inside and try to rescue Captain Turner. William orders the German soldier holding Captain Turner hostage to put his gun down, but the German orders him to do it first, when suddenly the German shoots Captain Turner in the head. William quickly shoots him down. Angry, he also kills the other German soldier. Back to the headquarters, the German torturing Dirk gives the list of names to Marinus and orders him to find their addresses. Commandant Berghoff then orders for the arrest of the people given by Dirk and to execute him with them. Meanwhile, William and Hank get the raft and are about to go to the border, but Hank doesn't want to continue. With no other choice, William goes alone and left Hank behind. The scene changes to Marinus, who takes compassion for Dirk, secretly tells Tunche about her brother's situation, but he's spotted by a German officer and later tells him on Commandant Berghoff. As punishment, the Commandant fires him and made him part of the shooting squad that will execute Dirk and the others. Meanwhile, Tunche quickly gets home and tells her father the news. Dr. Visser tries to talk to Commandant Berghoff, but he didn't face the doctor. After Dirk's execution, Tunche meets with resistance and the man tells Tunche that they need to give the map to the Allies for Dirk's death to be worthy. The man tells them how to meet with the Allies and Tunche didn't hesitate to take on the mission. Meanwhile, William manages to meet with the Allies and join them again. Then, we see Marinus is back in combat duty. Later that night, while waiting for the right timing, Jana apologizes to Tunche about what happened to Dirk and thanks her for accompanying her. The two women then move and steal a boat when German soldiers spot and shoot at them. Unfortunately, Jana was shot, but Tunche pushes the boat away for Jana to continue, then surrenders to the soldiers. Meanwhile, William hears his superiors talk about the losing battle they're about to head on. The next day, both forces prepare for battle. And as soon as the Germans spotted the Allies, they start shooting and the battle begins. As expected, the Allies struggle against the Germans. William witnesses his comrades die in front of his eyes. Meanwhile, the Germans are in the comfort of their trenches, waiting for the enemies to show up. The shootout then continues shortly after. Overwhelmed, the Allies call for retreat. Afterward, the Allies finally found the boat with the dying Jana in it. On the other hand, we see Tunche imprisoned on the German side. Jana is taken to the camp where she successfully hands the documents to the Allies before succumbing to her wound and dies while looking directly at William. Getting the map, the Allies finally come up with a proper plan. Later that night, while the Germans are busy fighting the enemies up front, other Allies soldiers successfully flank them. Marinus then witnesses an officer kill his comrade that is retreating. Later, he begins to retreat as well as the Allies are nearing his location. As William follows him, Marinus manages to hide and get behind William, pointing a gun at him. But he didn't shoot and lowered his gun instead. William then points his gun at Marinus as he walks away, but he didn't shoot him as well. Morning comes and the Allies prevail against the Germans. Meanwhile, Marinus goes back to their camp when he sees another soldier is about to execute Tunche. Having enough, he stabs the German but also gets shot in the process. He then kills the German violently. Tunche tries to attend to his wound and Marinus cries as he succumbs to his death. When the Allied forces arrive, William sees Tuncha as she still tries to help Marinus. Tuncha then walks away along with the Allies as William hops on the truck. In an on-screen narration,